All right. Okay, so I get lots and lots of questions about testosterone. Lots of them are the same question over and over again. So I want to go through some of that. The number one question we get is it okay for women to take testosterone? Yes, women need testosterone desperately. For their bone density, for their orgasm function, for their energy, for fat loss, for health and wellness. Testosterone is the healing hormone. It heals women just like it heals men. So yes, it's hypercritical that women start getting their testosterone levels in. The problem is the lab ranges are wrong. Research and what I've seen in my office when I've talked to other docs about, the lab ranges for women, you need to look at on trough day being between around 80 to 250. That's what we see women having the best success with. It's pretty fantastic. The thing I like most about it is that it helps bring marriages back together. Because if you increase a woman's ability to sleep, her energy levels, she starts losing a little bit of fat, so she feels a little better. Orgasm function goes through the roof. All of a sudden, she's going to have sex more often, wants to, and that makes marriages better because most men's primary and secondary love language is physical touch or sex. So yes, very, very important for women. Testosterone also converts into estrogen. So the hot flashes, night sweats, and vaginal dryness can oftentimes be taken care of with just one injection, for just one tool. So yeah, extremely important for women. If you have a wife or a loved one or whatever who's over the age of 20, I would have their testosterone levels pulled. We see it all the time. Does testosterone make you infertile? It can. So with men specifically, not women. We have lots of women who are on testosterone the entire pregnancy. Fantastic for them. By the way, micro penis or having a very, very small penis is tied to low testosterone levels in women while they're pregnant. So I would recommend that you check those testosterone levels, especially if you're going to be pregnant. Plus, you want to heal and regenerate and build tissue. So testosterone is very important during pregnancy as well. For men, though, it can reduce the function to the testicles. So the testicles will shrink and they quit producing testosterone and they quit producing sperm. Now, does this mean if you take testosterone that you don't have to worry about condoms and you're not going to get people pregnant? No, that's not what that means. That means your chances are reduced. On that, we see tons of kids in the 18 to, I've just tested some 16, 17-year-olds, but a bunch of males in that 18-year-old to 25-year-old range who are testing at 150 to 250 testosterone levels when they should be 1,000. So yeah, now here's the problem with this. Like, as more kids are getting tested and they're getting told they should be on stuff, which is accurate, a lot of them are getting pushed to enclomiphene. Enclomiphene will raise your testosterone. It's a fantastic tool. The problem is it will also radically increase your fertility. I like to make sure that the kids know that, because when I talk to them about it, they're like, no one told me that. The chances of an oopsie baby go up a lot when you're a super fertile. So just FYI on that one. Now, the path that I took and that I recommend, or I don't recommend, but I at least let people know about, was when I was younger, I was in my early 20s, I got tested and my testosterone was really low. And I specifically chose to take testosterone so that my fertility levels would stay low. And then when it was time, when I got married, it was time for kids, we jumped on HCG, brought my fertility levels up, had my 2 kids, got off the HCG, back on the testosterone, and now I'm fine. So there's a lot of kids, there's a lot of guys, I say kids, anybody who's, I'm so old now, I'm 45, that, when you're 20, I refer to you as kids. So I have a lot of NFL athletes I work with, I still refer to as kids. But so when you're younger in that 18 to 25-year-old range, and you're like looking at, what you're going to do, your options, bear that in mind, because I didn't want an oopsie. That's why I went with testosterone. We've got a lot of bodybuilders who've been doing bodybuilding for a long time, taking a giant amount of testosterone and other steroids and whatnot, and getting them on HCG, they were able to have kids too. So it's not a foolproof plan, but it's worked every time we've ever tried it. So that's a great one. If you get on testosterone, do you have to stay on it forever? No, you can get off whenever you want to. Now, here's what happens. The ramp up to testosterone usually takes 4 to 6 weeks before you're like, oh, I feel it. I feel great. The ramp down can take just as long. But what ends up happening is that you start to notice, hey, I'm not sleeping as well. I'm sore all the time. I don't have the energy to do stuff. My sex drive is down. And you're like, well, maybe I should get back on because this drug did so much for me. it's, first of all, it's not a drug. It's a natural product that your body desperately needs. And just like if you quit eating or quit sleeping, your body wouldn't respond very well. You'd be like, man, now that I'm sleeping 2 hours a night, I don't feel as good. Maybe I should go back to that addictive sleep stuff I had so I can get 8 hours and I'll feel good. Yeah, your body desperately requires testosterone to function right. So if you have it and you're like, man, I feel great, that's what normal is supposed to feel like. When you're low on T, you should feel bad. So when you quit taking your testosterone, if you then feel bad, it's not because you're addicted to a drug or you're having withdrawals from a drug, because again, it's not a drug. It is that you're now not feeling like you're supposed to because you're not where you're supposed to be chemically. So yeah, it's a big, big deal. Where's a lot of this stuff coming from? Where's the low T coming from? Stress, atrazine, chemicals in our food, water, and air, high stress. All those things are creating these issues. We've seen there's lots of evidence of electromagnetic static creating some problems with the testicles as well. So that's also where we're seeing some of it. This frequency stuff is ignored by medicine all the time on purpose. So all the negative effects aren't really brought to the forefront, because if you start talking about the negative effects, you start to understand the positive function, and then you start to understand, well, maybe we should do less of the negative and start bringing up the positive, and that is really bad for pharmaceuticals. So they're not going to talk about it, just like they never talk about parasites, because their whole goal, the Western medicine models, to sell drugs. And a lot of these testosterone stuff they're not drugs. They can't really be patented because they're naturally occurring. So the other question I get a lot is, will it build muscle on its own? Technically, yes, testosterone will build muscle on its own. However, it's not going to give you abs and biceps and pecs and the things you want. It's going to start regenerating tissue and start helping build musculature that's in your body. Your body's very efficient. It will maintain function at needed capacity. What that means is that if you're not working out, if you're not trying to bench press 300 pounds, your body won't just be like, let's build muscles that'll bench press 300 pounds. It'll respond to whatever forces or whatever stimuli you give it. So if you work out real hard, it'll build muscle faster. If you don't work out, it's not really going to build that much muscle. So if you want to, like, a lot of people see these bodybuilders on stage and they're like, oh, steroids did that. Bullshit. What happened with that? Steroids were part of it, but the other thing, it was a lot of dedication, sacrifice, and commitment, and showing up to the gym an hour a day every day, or 3 hours a day every day. Like, steroids were definitely a part of it, but it was everything else they did. It was the diet and everything else. The other one we get is injectable better than oral. It just kind of depends. I like injectable better, but you got to check the oil that you guys are using. It's real hard to get pharmacies to use MCT. We were trying for a while and it backed everything up, so we had to go back to grapeseed. But that's one of those things to check, that what your oils are in. What is the most common used steroid? This one always gets people. I always think this is funny. Birth control. Birth control is the #1 steroid used in the United States. Estrogen is a steroid, progesterone is a steroid, cortisol is a steroid, and testosterone are steroids. Steroids are made from sterols. That's the whole. This is how chemistry works. It's the definition of the class of chemical it's in. Your body makes testosterone and estrogen, progesterone, all those things out of cholesterol, and so sterols turn into steroids chemically. That's where it's at. So yeah, eating a lower cholesterol diet definitely affects you. Statin drugs definitely affect you, but that's kind of the point of statin drugs, is to radically reduce your health, your healing, your stability, so they can sell you more drugs. Because anybody you've ever met who's on statin drugs, at least every patient I've ever talked to, is fatigued, their joints hurt, they have depression, and then they end up with dementia, because they've got lots of drugs to sell you for. And so keeping your body unhealthy is a really great way to sell you secondary and tertiary drugs. So that's kind of one of their goals. So that's a big one on that one. The long-term damage, people always worry about long-term damage, and especially people are concerned with cardiovascular health. Your heart is a muscle. Testosterone tells muscles to heal, regenerate, and repair. So having low testosterone and not allowing your heart to heal, regenerate, and repair is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So testosterone is great for your heart. The other thing, your blood vessels. So your blood vessels have 3 layers: the tunica media, the middle one, medium, middle. The middle one are muscles. And so if you have high muscle tone, they'll hold the blood vessel open. If you have low muscle tone, low testosterone, they start to collapse, and we get what's called deep vein thrombosis, which is what you see in old people. So we're starting to see it in younger people because younger people have low testosterone, but that's one of those big things. So 100% it's good for your cardiovascular system. Now, the argument that it will increase your hemoglobin hematocrit levels to a dangerous position, and then you'll have a heart attack because it's too much pressure, your blood gets too thick, I think is extremely overblown. I'm sure it's happened. I've just never seen it or read about it or anything. And anybody who's doing these even halfway, responsibly, is getting their blood pulled quarterly or every 5-6 months, you'll be able to catch it and deal with it. And for the vast majority of times, which is super funny, like if you know how to read blood work, and I get it, most people don't, but like I keep getting these blood works and these doctors are like, you're gonna die. And I'm like, did you work out this morning? They're like, yeah. I'm like, well, that's why all your labs look this way. How come my other doctor didn't say anything? My guess is your doctor doesn't really know how to read blood work. They just are told when this level's high, give them this drug. So a lot of times what you're going to be seeing is, if you're looking at the blood report, if you have a CBC CMP, is that you'll see high hemoglobin, high hematocrit, but then you'll also see high BUN, high creatinine levels, and you're looking at it and you're like, okay, you're dehydrated. Like that's a pretty obvious function. But yeah, it can increase hemoglobin hematocrit. Here's the thing. That's how your body carries oxygen. The number one chemical your body requires over everything else is oxygen. It goes oxygen, ATP. So an ATP is the energy system that your body uses to run on. So oxygen is critically important. And so testosterone is the number one way that we know that your body increases that outside of stem cell function and direct stimulation, stuff like that. So definitely testosterone is going to be beneficial for that as well. Let's see. What are the other questions I always get? Will it help? Will growth hormone help with testosterone? No, they're two different hormones. If you want to take growth hormone peptides, Samorelin, Ipamorelin is my favorite. Testosterone works just fine. The Samorelin Ipamorelin blend, there's 2 peptides in there. One's short acting, one's long acting. So that blend is by far my favorite because you get double type of effect, and that longer term function stacks. So it's substantially better than just testosterone. Now, if you want to do testosterone, Ipamorelin, that's your call. But anyway, growth hormone is fantastic. It'll help you heal. Every single person who has a surgery, a broken bone, anything, definitely needs to jump on some growth hormone to radically increase that healing. Now, if they're younger, it might increase their growth, their height, and how they just kind of grow all over. Keep that in account. But the testosterone, the growth hormone will help with healing those bones. If the growth plates are closed, you usually don't have to worry about growth. So those are some of the questions we get into. Is testosterone addictive? No. No. You just feel better. And then you get off and you feel worse. And you're like, all right, get back on. Like that's like, see, it's addictive. No. You're going through withdrawals. Yeah, withdrawals of having normal hormone function. So just like having no sleep, you're going through withdrawals of not getting enough sleep. Yeah, it's stupid. Let's see. That's basically, that's the big thing. If you're going to actually inject into a vein and do problems, nope. I've never ever heard of, read about, or seen that. So testosterone is a natural function. So like cypionate, nanthate, propionate, those are more natural. If you're looking at things like Anavar, Winstrol, stuff like that, Tren, Deca, those are synthetics that have place. I think they have a place. I love Deca for my joints and stuff like that. If you're going to take Win and Anavar, I would just make sure that you're feeding your liver properly. We use those all the time with guys and get phenomenal results. And they're super safe as long as you recognize you're going to radically increase functionality of the liver. If you don't support it, you're going to have liver problems, obviously, which is the number one problem with Winstrol and Anavar and other oral steroids is people have liver issues because they didn't understand how to support it chemically. But most of these people still think the body runs on calories, so the chemistry is lost. So that's some of the major questions we usually get. I would highly recommend that you get your blood pulled and you get it checked. When you're getting your blood pulled and checked, there's a couple different things that you need to see on your blood work to understand that your doctor or whoever you're working with knows what they're doing. Total testosterone, free testosterone, sex hormone binding globulin. Regardless if you're a man or woman, you need to pull estrogen as well. Testosterone converts to estrogen, and so if you're not monitoring estrogen, you're going to have an issue. So like the puffiness, the gynecomastia, like those sort of things, those are driven by estrogens that are converted from the testosterone in your body. So if you're not recognizing those and dealing with those and monitoring them, you need to make sure that you are. Your anti-estrogens are important, especially with all the xeno and phytoestrogens we have in our food, water, and air. So, managing this is a big deal. That's where your puffiness and stuff like that comes from. So keep those in mind. And the other big one is, if you're going to take testosterone, make sure you're using how much you're taking. A man on trough day, which is your lowest point in your week, between 800 and 1200, usually will do okay with that. But if you're going to be at basically that level or higher, you need to be doing something physical. It doesn't have to be a lot, but you need to be doing something. So if you guys have any other questions, drop them in the comments. Hit us questions@chalmerswellness.com, or you can DM me like you guys usually do. You guys have a fantastic day. Thanks for your time.